Board meeting to order. Trustee Bill King, would you please lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up this evening, we're fortunate to have Lynn Barton, our village historian, to discuss the Historic Preservation Commission projects and things with the museum. Kind of, okay. Thanks for coming, Lynn. Appreciate it.
Well, I was going to talk about some of the things I do in my office.
That's great.
I have 9 different volunteers that I work with during the week that come in at different times. I usually work 3 days. And we're working on everything from indexing to inventorying. I have someone inputting into an access database. I have Mr. Palmer who goes around town and takes photos for me. I have another fella who cuts out newspaper articles from the D&C or obituaries that I don't have time to do. I have a couple of people that help with research. I get a lot of genealogy questions, and historians are not genealogists, and they're very time consuming, so I'm really lucky to have 1 or 2 people that can look into that for me. I could spend, hours just on one thing and still not figure it out. So we get a lot of requests for that kind of thing. We get a lot of requests for people that have bought properties and they want to know if I have any history on their home. So anyway, the inventory is an important thing. It's something I've been working on since I became historian, is trying to organize everything. And we've got the downstairs in pretty good shape, but I don't even want to think about going upstairs. But we want to try and tackle that a little bit this summer. And getting a database that will identify what belongs to the town, what belongs to the village, and there are a few things in there that belong to the museum. So those are some of the projects. I've been trying to put together some programs, PowerPoint programs, and I'd love to be able to put together some cemetery tours. I have to start from scratch on all that, and it's extremely time consuming. So I work at the programs when I can. As far as the museum, that's a very busy place. The next big event coming up there is their annual garage sale. It's held on June 11th, 12th, and 13th, and it's at 394 Phillips Road, the Nyokas home. It's a beautiful historical home down there. And the museum is still looking for donations. They don't want they don't want anything large, like TVs or computers, and they don't accept clothes. But anything else, if it's something that you think might sell at the garage sale to help the museum raise money, they would love to get that. You could drop things off at the museum during their hours that they're open, or you could leave a message on the phone there, which I take care of, and the phone number at the museum is 265-3308, or I also have my home phone, 265-2768. The museum this year has a new feature. It's called the Little Gallery, and it's local artists. They're going to keep that up for a while. It's in one corner of the museum, and there's some really nice things on display there. There's some photography from Linda Schamberger. I hope I got that right. Joanne Fronier has some of her artwork there. Thomas Wiederhold, he and his wife have bought a historic home down by Webster Park that they're restoring, and he loves photography. They also had some prints donated, Thelma Winter prints from Western New York. I guess she's quite well known there. And they were donated for the garage sale. They are on display in the museum. They are beautifully framed, and the museum is asking $20 for them. So if anyone is interested, please stop by and check those out. Let's see. And they also right now have going on a quilt show. So they brought out some of the old quilts thinking of course, Webster's 175th anniversary. Some of the quilts are back in the 1800s, so those are on display for they'll be out for a while now. We have a lot of quilts, and I don't think we could display them all. So we try and bring some different ones out at different times. What else is going on? I don't know, Historic Properties Committee that I'm on at the museum. The town handed out 5 bronze plaques to 5 properties last week at the town board meeting. So we finished that up for the year, and we'll be starting again, working on identifying properties for next year. Historic preservation, the village historic preservation. It's not, I'm getting confused. Historic Preservation Commission, which is the village. We are trying to put together a garden tour. Myself and another lady have been trying to work on it. We don't have time, and we would really love to get some phone calls from anyone who knows if their neighbor has a lovely garden. The date that we would like to have it would be July 18th. That's a Saturday, the day of the Fireman's Carnival, if anyone needs to know that. So we're hoping that we can get enough gardens. I think we have 2 of them in the town because we run out in the village. So we're hoping we can pull it off. We're trying. And if you know of any garden in the village that you think is a lovely garden, and we ask for donations at that, so the money goes toward the Webster Museum. The other project that we're starting, we'd like to do a survey of homes. The Landmark Society did a survey of homes in 1992, properties. They only did, I think, 129, maybe 130. And those are documented in binders in my office and in the village. You have to ask to see them if you stop by the village. But there are a lot of other homes that were not included, and we would really like to contact the homeowners and try and get some history down, take some photos. Because in 50 years, I'm sure a new owner will come along who will want to know if we have any history on that house. So the more we can document now, the better. And the Historic Preservation Commission is still working on their site of the month. We're coming up with some well-preserved buildings in the village. And we do that during the nice weather. And I can't answer any questions on the freight station. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
We're not really involved in that. So anyway, does anybody have any questions?
What are the size of the paintings that are for sale at the museum?
The little prints, they're in frames. They're beautifully, professionally framed and matted. There's a larger one that I think they wanted to ask $30, and the other ones are $20. And they're of, buildings and barns, and they're quite nice. So stop by the museum. You can check those out. The museum is open Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 2 to 4:30. Or give a call, and if you want to stop by at a different time, I'm sure someone could meet you there.
Well, in the history in a cup, too.
They did that already.
They did.
Yes, that was in May. The museum does history in a cup,
And
and
it's done.
that's always very popular. They also had this past month had a speaker, the Marion historian does a program on kit houses. We've been trying to identify kit houses in town, and we had a very good turnout for that.
What's a kit house?
A kit house, you could buy the wood, the lumber, the plans from Sears and Roebuck. Actually, a fellow that I know in the town bought his from a lumber company in Buffalo, and he told me of 2 other houses in Webster that were also kit houses from that same company. So
Oh, you said kid. You said kit?
Kit.
Okay.
All the
I see.
boards are
I
numbered.
gotcha.
And we have a metal, one that was made out of metal. I don't think you would recognize that from the road, as they had the front sided now. But, and homeowners did that. It was a little less expensive, and then they built them themselves. So we know of a few, but we'd love to identify more. So if you're in your basement and you look up and the rafters have numbers on them, that may possibly be a kit house. So, the museum would love to know that, and so would I. So that was a very good program. I can't think of anything else. So, I think that's about it. Give us a call,
Thank you very much.
265-3308.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate it. All right, next are our public comments. So I'll open up the public portion of the meeting. Just ask that you give your name and address. Keep your comments to 5 minutes, please.
Eric Reynolds, 64 Kircher Park. Thank you, Lynn, for speaking tonight. I don't have very much. I've noticed that down on Solari Court on Kircher Park, they're selling topsoil. Apparently, they're planning on starting to sell hay as well, based on the length of the grass at the Pocket Park there. So maybe we could take a look at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Okay, well, we'll close the public portion of the meeting, and I see that Mr. Walter is here. I just wanted to give you a brief update that I have two phone calls in regarding the McCoy judgment. I'm waiting for a phone call back. As soon as I have an updated information, I'll make sure I get that to you. All right, so the first thing we have up this evening is a resolution to approve the minutes. And we'll do the village board meeting of April 23rd first. I did go through this, Josette, and thank you for assuring that everybody's vote was corrected and identified. So I didn't have any other issues with it. Does anybody else have any questions or?
No.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the minutes for the April 23rd, 2015 board meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lancy,
Aye.
Trustee Byers,
Aye.
Trustee Belkane,
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito,
Aye.
Mayor Cahill.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is village board meeting of May 14th. Anyone have any input on the minutes for that meeting? Questions?
No.
Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the village board meeting of minutes of May 14th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Ippolito,
Aye.
Trustee Byers,
Aye.
Trustee Lancy,
Aye.
Trustee,
Absentee. Sorry.
Trustee Belkane,
Aye.
Mayor Cahill.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next is resolution to approve the claims and warrants. I did have one question about the mini excavator. That was answered. Anyone else have any questions? Did I pronounce it? All right, then I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the claims and warrants.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane,
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito,
Aye.
Trustee Byers,
Aye.
Trustee Lancy,
Aye.
motion, Mayor Cahill.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have a resolution to approve the selection of an engineering firm to work on the North Avenue Connector project. I'll read down through this. Whereas the Village of Webster Board of Trustees, by resolution dated 12 February 2015, approved the project, made necessary appropriations, and expressed the village's desire to advance a project for the North Avenue Connector, PIN number 4755.94. Whereas the consultant selection committee has met, reviewed expressions of interest from engineering firms on a local LDSA list, and reviewed presentations made by 4 firms. And whereas the consultant selection team, after careful consideration, has recommended that Lou Engineers be retained by the Village of Webster to provide services related to the North Avenue Connector project. Now therefore be it resolved, the Village of Webster Board of Trustees, duly convened, does hereby resolve that the Village of Webster Board of Trustees hereby approves the recommendation of the Consultant Selection Committee, and it is hereby further resolved that the Village of Webster Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor or his designee to enter into contract negotiations with Lou Engineers to secure the services of the firm to advance the project at a cost not to exceed $225,000. And it is hereby further resolved that upon both the completion of negotiations and the satisfaction of any federal and state requirements, the mayor of the Village of Webster be and is hereby authorized to execute all necessary agreements or contracts on behalf of the Village of Webster with Lou Engineers in connection with the advancement of this project. And it is further resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be filed with the New York State Commissioner of Transportation by attaching it to any necessary agreement in connection with the project. And it is further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. Questions?
Will that be entered into, that correction or that addition be entered into the resolution? If we don't have it in front of us.
The addition of the
Yes, it
monetary
will.
amount.
Yes, it will be.
And I don't have a problem.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion in a second for this resolution.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane?
Ippolito, aye.
Ippolito? Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have a change to the tobacco use policy. I think the change is written in red. Because we recognize the hazards caused by the exposure to environmental tobacco smoke, as well as life-threatening diseases linked to the use of all forms of tobacco, it shall be the policy of the Village of Webster, effective immediately, to provide a tobacco-free environment for all its employees and visitors. This policy covers use of vapor cigarettes and all tobacco products, including the use of oral tobacco products or spit tobacco, and it applies to both employees and non-employee visitors to the village and any of the village buildings, including the sewage treatment plant and the well field. Additionally, there shall be no use of any form of tobacco in all Village of Webster vehicles, nor tobacco use in personal vehicles when transporting others on village authorized business. I didn't think there was any objections to those changes, so if there's no objections, I'll entertain a motion in a second to accept the changes to this policy.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Would you just put the today's date in there?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Don, anything this evening?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Josette?
We have the approval needed for the tax warrant.
You want to review that, or?
Well,
Do you know how they are in terms of like last year comparison at all?
it's just a little bit more. I didn't bring the last year. but we're gonna start collecting on June 1. I could read this. You are hereby commended to receive and collect from several persons named in the assessment roll hereunto annexed, the several sums named in the last column thereof opposite their respective names for the following purposes. For the general fund, $603,865,92. Business Improvement District, $20,502.32. And we had unpaid property maintenance invoices of $1,504.74, being of all purpose a total amount of $625,872.98. As village clerk, I am in receipt of the roll and warrant of the collection of taxes therein levied by the Webster Village Board, and will receive taxes from June 1, 2015 to and include July 1, 2015, from 8 a.m. until 4:30, except Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays at the Village Hall, 28 West Main Street, Webster, New York, 14580. On all such taxes remaining unpaid after July 1, 2015, interest of 5% shall be added for the month of July, and an additional 1% for each month and fraction thereof thereafter until paid. In witness of the Board of Trustees of said Village of Webster has caused these presents to be signed by its mayor and the clerk of the said village, and the seal of the village is hereunto affixed the 28th day of May 2015.
All right, so people can, they can come in effective June 1st and start paying, correct?
Yes.
Have all the bills been mailed yet?
They will be mailed
Have they been mailed yet?
today or tomorrow from the printer. They're going directly from the printer, so everybody should have them. They should be,
On the first,
yes.
definitely.
When's the first, Monday?
Monday. Yeah.
So how does that work? We accept the roll, and then we send it to the printer, or does it go right to the printer and he mails them out, or how does that work?
The county sends everything right to the printer. ABS, Monroe
So
County.
we're not involved in that at all? As far as getting the bills earlier to the people that owe this? Because if they're not gonna get it till Monday,
Well,
you
they'll-
would think they
they'll get
wanna-
it on time. They're all sent out at the same time, so everybody gets theirs the same time.
but we don't mail them.
We mail the banks.
Only the bank.
Only the bank.
Only the banks?
Yes, to the bank. If you have a mortgage at a bank,
Right.
I have a bank requisition that
Right.
says they want your tax bill.
Okay.
So then, in the office, in the village here, we put together all the bank invoices to send to the different banks.
I got you. And those are going out, you said, what, tomorrow?
Yes, and banks don't usually pay till the day that it's due.
The last day is due, right? Okay. All right, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I'll entertain a motion a second to approve the tax warrant 2015-16.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have financial statements for April 2015. Are there any questions?
No, this does not reflect the county sales tax, right? But I heard good news about that,
Very good news.
so.
Received second week of May, slightly higher than it was last year. So I think we've surpassed the threshold of the amount of realized revenues for the year.
Right. That's great news. Christine, you want to talk about the New York State Insurance Fund briefly,
Yes.
please?
Just the other day, we received a check from the New York State Insurance Fund, our workers' compensation coverage company, for $12,461.60, which represents a dividend check representing 22.5% of the premium that we paid for the policy year July 1st, 2013 to July 1st, 2014. The dividend is evidence of the success of New York State Insurance Fund Safety Group program to General and Safety Group 497 in particular. Credit for this dividend belongs to you, us as the Village of Webster, to your fellow safety group members, and to your safety group manager, Glatfelder Brokerage Services. So the amount that we received was 23% of the dividend that we paid of $55,384 for the 13-14 workers' comp year. So that's a nice healthy return.
It sure is.
Very good.
And we never really know what we're going to get back. It all depends on what the whole group, which we're obviously a part of, many, many companies that are part of New York State Insurance Fund.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Next, I would ask the board if we could have authorization to hire a temporary employee from ETS staffing at a rate not to exceed $15 per hour, because we are a little short-staffed, and it is tax season, and
We have a time frame, approximately how long or not?
no, probably have a couple weeks at least, and then
Approximately 2 to 3 weeks or whatever
Right.
until
probably 3.
the selection's done.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a plan as far as, who's going to train this person, what the person's going to do, estimated start date?
Once I get authorization, then I can call. We have an employee going out on vacation the second week in June, so I can.
My question is, who's going to train this employee? What is the employee going to do? Who's the employee going to report to? And what's the estimated start date? I don't just want to hire somebody without some sort of a plan.
It will be-
Obviously, I am not a proponent of doing this for the reasons that I've outlined in emails, because early on in this process of hiring a clerk 3, I asked if you wanted to hire a temp to assist, and that was approximately two months ago, and I was told no. So I think that.
Early on, we also had another avenue of approach.
Well, absolutely.
So-
But I think we should have at least a cohesive or coherent plan before we decide to, one way or another, to hire a person for $15 an hour. That's all I'm asking for.
Well, I would assume that it would be the same approach that was taken when we were looking for a temporary after Anne Marie
Yes,
left employment, and we were looking for an office clerk.
right.
But the
Phones,
bottom line is,
calendar.
if it's just a few weeks, the amount of training and time you have to invest in someone for a short period, what's it gonna take away from the people in the office now who are already saying they're short-staffed? And I had mentioned this to you earlier, I think if we are talking about short staff and hiring someone, why is someone going on vacation right now? If this wasn't like a planned vacation and was just recently submitted, we can deny that request to say, hey, we're short-staffed, now can you take your vacation another time? We can do that, so to be short-staffed, then let someone go on vacation is a little concerning to me. Huh?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to just get caught up because I have no idea what's been going on, obviously.
But you can't just, I mean, like, what John's saying is, what is the plan? So someone comes in, someone now has to leave their job to train this person. And so what are they doing, is the question. And what are we gonna get out of it in a couple weeks? Is it worth?
It's worth expending taxpayer dollars to, hire someone for, you mentioned 2 to 3 weeks, while we continue the search for the clerk 3. Well, not to continue, but we renew the search for a clerk 3 without any plan. I mean, typically when a seasonal employee is requested by the DPW, there's a time frame, a beginning, a projected beginning, projected end time. Typically, if there's going to be special projects, we've asked Jake in the past what this employee will be doing, and there's always a plan. And I don't expect a detailed plan, but I would like to know who's going to train this person, because I just don't want to spend taxpayer dollars to have someone sit at a desk and answer phones. I'm not a proponent of that. I'm absolutely not a proponent of the reason why we have to do this right now. But I think the board is entitled to know basically what this person is going to do and who's going to train this person. And I think the office staff is entitled to that also. It's just my.
Are the people from ETS staffing, are they people who have typically filled into secretarial positions?
Yes.
So you're not training somebody necessarily to be a secretary. You're training them, if you are training, to do something specific in the office you would like them to do.
Yes, yes. How to answer, I mean, they would know how to answer the phone, but.
Obviously.
Right,
but
answer the
then
phone,
direct-
take a message, and then someone's
Yeah,
gonna have to
different-
call them back
yeah.
anyways.
And then there'll be also tax payments. Handle.
Anybody else have any questions?
I have a lot, but I haven't been here for months, so Daryl, you will have to answer a lot of questions.
Well, if there's no more questions, I'll entertain a motion in a second to authorize the hiring of a temporary employee from ETS staffing at a rate not to exceed $15 per hour.
I will make that motion.
Do we have a second? No second?
I can't vote on it because I just don't know what's going on.
We have no second. Motion fails.
Okay.
Will, code enforcement?
I was told by the lady behind the camera I had to do this. It's been a pretty busy month, as you can see, between permits and complaints, violations, and legal notices that were sent out. Although Eric's not here, in answer to his question regarding the grass on Kircher, the development that's down there, which is called Village Path, which he called Solori Court, is under new ownership. Morgan Management bought the property.
Really?
Yes,
They did.
and they didn't realize that that section belonged to them because it's between two residential houses.
Right.
So I had called their maintenance guy and relayed to him what needs to be taken care of. They were having problems with their mowers, but they're gonna be taking care of it, so that's that. But now's the time of year where we send out several grass notices, and we have sent out several grass notices already. And basically, for anybody in the listening area, what that means is if your grass gets higher than roughly 8 to 10 inches, and 10 inches is the state maximum for New York State Property Maintenance Code, then we will send a letter, and the letter states you have so much time to take care of your grass. If you don't, we mow it, and it comes with a heavy cost. And the heavy cost is to dissuade you from allowing it to grow that high in the future and using us as your mowing company from then on. Sent out letters recently to owners of the ponds. We have to do that on an annual basis. Yes?
Could I interrupt you for one
Yeah.
second? Mr. Reynolds, Will just, you were outside, I just wanted to make sure, did you hear what he?
Yes, I did.
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the interruption, Will.
Yeah, you always can call me. 265-3770 extension 116. Give me a call. All right. Sent out several letters to pond owners. What it is we have stormwater maintenance ponds that are out there on several projects. And according to our code, we have to send out an annual letter to make sure that they're inspected by the owners of the ponds, that it's inspected by a licensed engineer, not their buddy who knows how to look at ponds. And we get the report back to make sure that the ponds are functioning in a manner in which they were installed originally. And also this clears up a lot of problems for maintenance, when people call little mosquitoes and things like that. So we make sure that they take care of their own ponds. If not, we have a maintenance agreement that says that we can enter the property, charge them for our time to clean the pond out ourselves. And then the only other thing I would mention is recently I had been interviewed by FEMA for our flood insurance program to make sure that we're following the procedures that we need to follow in order to give us a good rating on our flood insurance, not just for us, but for the entire municipality. And we got a very, very good response back saying that we're actually on track for compliance. So,
Well, I know
happy about
that was a
that.
lot of work for you, and I greatly appreciate it, so
Yeah,
good
thank you.
work, good job. Under the 3133
Yep.
West Main, the property maintenance violations, when is the court extension, what's the date?
And I knew you were gonna ask that question. I don't have an answer because I haven't, the attorney had to call the courts to tell them how far the owner of the property was in their compliance. And the way the court looks at it, as long as they're continuing to work on the property, they'll give the extension. So I have to talk to our attorney to find out what the extension was. Typically, it's a month, but they did the siding on the front. They're working on painting the whole building. The shed's coming down within a week in the
Great.
back. The gutters were fixed in the back, so
What about the roof?
that I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know about the roof.
Was that listed as a?
No, because
No?
originally I didn't know, because from the ground, you can't tell if the roof is bad.
Well, I thought you had a big S on your chest, and you just flew up.
Yeah, well, a lot of people think I do, but honestly, I don't.
So is that something we would have to address at some point, the condition of that roof?
The only way I could really know is either go up there myself or visually inspect the inside to see if it's leaking.
Because I know the contractor that was working on that did express significant concern with that roof, the condition of it.
Yeah, he
Which I
did
brought
when he
to
was
your
up
attention,
there,
so-
but again, that's his word. And although I know the contractor, he's reputable.
Right.
But I cannot just go based on his word. I can just say to her, hey, you might want to look at this and so on, but I can't, say that it is bad or it isn't bad.
Unless you have pictures or something, right?
Well, yeah, but even pictures, you can't tell if the roof is bad sometimes. Now, the people that had ice damage, they had good roofs,
Sure,
but that, I mean.
right.
it was-
Okay. You were busy. Thank you very much, Will. I
Yeah.
appreciate all your work.
Thank you.
Well, what's the status on property on East Main there?
104?
104, is that?
104, yeah.
104?
Yep, that one is scheduled, I think, for June 16th to go back to court. The gentleman that owns that, he's been trying to contact the bank, or he's been working with the bank for 2 years to try and solve the problem. And he wanted to make payments, but the bank wouldn't accept his payments. Now, this is his word, because the bank wanted a certain amount, all of it, so they wouldn't take payments. And so he's working on, I believe, and don't quote me, I'm just saying this because I believe in conversations I've had with him, working on foreclosure for that. And so he's been contacting our attorney, sent letters, because the bank finally did get a hold of him. So it's another one of those situations where someone's walking away from a property. So, but June 16th, we'll figure out what we're gonna do with that. Right now, as far as I know, he still owns it, and I think he received a grass notice as well.
Yes, he did.
But that's another, I've got about 10 files, 8 or 10 files that I keep on these properties, and all the contact information, and all the times I've contacted either the owner or the property maintenance companies taking care of them. And as I've said before, without getting into too much detail, the problem we have is the paper has labeled these as zombie properties. And the reason they're zombie properties is because they're in that nebulous area where it's very difficult for us to get anything done. And I wish that New York State would at least pass a law saying that whoever's responsible would at least do the property maintenance part of it, or give us a contact so we can contact them.
Well, I know the banks have, within the past year and a half, they've been paying a lot more of attention to, code violations with respect to making repairs not only on the outside of the houses, but also the inside. But first you need to get into that stage, which, clearly they aren't there quite yet. Historically, you're trying to negotiate your mortgage payment on one end of the bank, and the other end of the bank is the foreclosure end, and they don't talk. So, I would say, just keep progressing and see what happens in court. But it's very, very poor condition, that house, and something needs to be done immediately.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
Anybody else have any questions for Will? All right, then we'll move right into Department of Public Works, and Jake's going to give us a brief update of paving and.
I just wanted something that Will had discussed about this grass notices.
Right.
It's one of those areas that it falls into the DPW, and we'll send the grass notices out. As Will indicated, if the grass gets over a certain height, we'll send out a notice. I typically do once a year, and then if it needs mowing after that, you've made a notice, you got a copy of the code, so we'll get in there. But we hate to do it. It's $300, it's a waste of money, and a waste of our time, frankly. So if people can get in there and mow the properties themselves. And the hardest part is, as Will was just talking about these zombie properties, I had a rather spirited conversation with a lender from Texas today about a house on Orchard Street, and they said they can do all, it was still in foreclosure, they didn't really own it yet, and there's nothing they can do. The only thing they can do is mow the grass. So, well, you're failing miserably at that, because it hasn't been mowed yet this year. But they had a picture in April, I think there was still snow on the ground, that said that it looked good so far, but it's pretty darn tall. So, but neighbors of these properties certainly let us know, but also there's got to be a process where it starts, and it does take a little bit of time to get going. But once it gets going, unfortunately, we got to let it get to a certain ridiculous height before you mow it again. At least we'll keep it down as much as we can.
And we established the height on that as far as our code goes. Is that correct?
Property maintenance code has it in there. It's 10 inches.
It's 10 inches?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's
But the other thing, Jake, talking about a letter, we send one letter out, and that's it for the year.
yeah.
And that gives us permission after that to go on whenever.
Yeah, the way our code,
Puts it on
if
the
you have
radar.
10 days notice, and then we get in there and take care of it whenever it needs it. Whether or not, if they mow it the first time, and then let it get, 2 feet tall again, we go in there and mow it the second time. But again, we don't like to, and especially on the foreclosed properties, the properties that are in foreclosure, it's a waste of money, and I'd rather have that, if we have to mow it 5 times in a year, I'd rather have $1,500 goes, it stays in the pocket of the people that are buying the properties, so they can put it back towards the house and bring it back, nice again, and make the neighborhoods nice. But like I said, if you're a neighbor of one of these properties, Will and I work together on them, and we hate to mow it, but certainly let us know, and we'll try to get that process going as fast as we can. There's a couple other notifications. We have, real quick, I want to thank the board for the North Ave, that resolution for the North Ave Connector project. And moving forward, that the preliminary design. We're gonna start negotiations for a contract with Lou Engineers, and I'm looking forward to that. One of the principals there is a Webster native too, Bob Huddeman, so he's very familiar with the area, and look forward to working with him on it. And him and that firm in EDR, but we'll have more information as this continues to progress. I pulled out a packet before that was about this thick that had, there's just one chapter in their guidebook for, this was just selecting the consultant for the federal project, so it's a pretty fun process. The DOT project, the village doesn't have much to do with the DOT project that's happening this year on North and South Ave, East and West Main. But we're kind of almost a liaison, if you will, for the project and trying to keep things coordinated. We know the area, we know the residents, we know the businesses. I had a great meeting, real brief, but meeting with the bid this morning and the folks from the DOT and the construction company. And the construction company, I'm real optimistic that it's not going to be fun completely. It's going to be disruptive, but we're going to have a great project, I think, and great results at the end of it. But they reached out. They were looking at how to get in touch with the businesses. And that tells me a lot that they're, in advance of this, they're looking to see how do we get in touch with businesses, how do we notify. So kind of came up with they're going to send me some updates on Fridays that I'm going to forward to the bid, and then Robin's going to be able to forward to the businesses to let people know what they're planning for the next week. In general, they're planning west, east, south, north, kind of in that order to do the project. They're planning on being here from June till October. It's basically a mill and pave with some extras. There's certain areas, there's not going to be new curb everywhere, but areas that need new curb, they're going to be trying to, doing the new curb work, some of the sidewalks in certain areas, some driveway aprons. Couldn't get that one out. But in a nutshell, it's a mill and pave job is what it is, but just the extra stuff. So it's going to be a little disruptive, but I think if everybody maintains their patience and understands that we'll get through it, and it'll be real nice. Real nice afterwards, and it's been a long time coming. So,
I believe Carol's going to have updates on the website also for those residents that would like to visit the website on Fridays.
And one of the things I'm going to try to do is, forward those updates along. I'm going to try to keep, I try to keep it general.
Yes.
As much as I want to certainly give people information, but there's so many factors.
We're not going to be at your house next Tuesday.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
And I'm glad you brought that up. When certain parts of the project for people that live right on the main,
Right.
250 or 404 as the state calls it, the people that live on those roads are going to be, there's going to be a couple days when they can't get in their driveway. But the state was, the contractor said, certainly, go through, we'll give them at least, or aiming to give them at least a week's notice. So people can make arrangements, and luckily there's not a lot of spots where there's big, huge blocks that are real long. So somebody should be able to, park around the corner within 3, 4, or 5 houses, and if they have to do that. I sent an email this evening to the police chief too, just to let him know that we're going to try to coordinate some of the overnight parking, and see. I'm waiting for a response from him to see if it's just a letter that he would need, or if it's more formal board action that he would look for to say, hey, let's suspend it or suspend in these areas. It's really tough to know exactly where people are going to park, during this project. But,
Does that affect the fireman's parade at all, or?
no, you know what? It's early on in the project. The state's been real great in communicating. And early on in the project, we talked about the Fireman's Parade, the Jazz Festival, and the Village Days. Robin Whitaker from the bid even brought it up again today, and they had it right in their sheet that there's no work. Though there's blackout dates basically that they can't do things. West Main Street, for some reason, there's an area in West Main Street that they can only work. I think he said 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the laneway. After that, they've got to be, they shoulder work in that, out in the lane. It's only 6 in the morning till 11 in the morning, so it affects I don't know, somebody figured out where traffic is, when and why and how, and so they said, no, that's when you can't work, you can only work in that certain time frame, and that's it.
Yeah, DOT's done a great job as far as communicating with the residents and the village board, and they specifically asked for event dates during the summer, and said that we'll do the best we can with our contractor to ensure that, you know, we work around those dates, and obviously as a result of your meeting this morning, the contractor is aware of them, and, you know, so I commend the DOT for their communication and their oversight of this project, and obviously the contractor that they chose also is going to be a big help.
I think it's important to keep general though with your,
Right.
the updates, I think it's under promise, over deliver kind of thing, you know?
It is, and you know, if someone has a specific question, I'm not, the village isn't running the project, the village isn't coordinating it, we're along for the ride too, we interface a little bit more, but really, it's something that we're just gonna kind of sit back and enjoy, the fruits of at the end of it. But, you know, little things, since we know the people here, we know, you know, again, the residents and the businesses. I got a call from the contractor, he's looking to see if he can store some barrels down near salt storage, you know, some of the, absolutely. Be great, anything we can do to keep, you know, keep the progress, you know, keep things moving along. Absolutely, you can throw them down, there's an area back there, so.
Use challenge yard.
Yeah, I did tell him that was a spot too, so.
Just drop off that mini excavator so I can,
I'm
the
still
whole-
using that to clean my desk, and then, well, then it's done.
he's cleaned
Ready?
off his desk, he's going like this. Just going like, what are you doing? Keep sorting my mail.
Yeah, so it's sorted. But I think that's it for those things. I did have a couple requests for summer help. You know, we're getting into a lot of projects this year. We've got I was trying to have a meeting this week with the game time representative to finalize the order for the playground equipment. She was gonna call me Tuesday, and it's Thursday now, so I'm gonna try to touch base with her again in the morning, and get that finalized, get those things coming, but we've got those replacements. We also have, obviously, working with the state on north and southeast and west Main Street things. We're gonna also have, looking at paving, trying to coordinate the schedule of paved Barrett Drive, portion of Lincolnshire, Fuller Avenue, looking to go from Dunning, take that down through to London, and up Curtis just a little bit, and get that intersection secured. It's really breaking down, and then see where we can go from there.
About Harmon?
And also Harmon Street, trying to get the speed bumps there where the sewers cross. It's like speed bumps driving down Harmon Street. So we're trying to, you know, it's one that's short one, we're gonna be over in that area, we're gonna try to get that squared away too. It's been something that bothers me every time I drive down it, so.
Slows you guys down.
I know. And I think that's it. So part of that, we typically get summer help, and they're used to supplement their regular workforce on these things, do some of the other mowing and weed whipping, flowering, you know, watering, weeding, all sorts of different activities. But we've had Brandon Montgomery here for a number of years. I understand he said it might be his last year coming back, but I'm not sure. He's a school teacher, so he'd be available more towards the end part of June. So I was looking for authorization to have Brandon Montgomery back at a rate of $11 an hour from June 15th. And no sooner than June 15th and no later than September 11th. And also, I'm trying to make contact with some of the people that have applications in, and frankly, it's been a little busy and hectic, especially
You've been a
in a
little
short
busy,
week.
I'd say.
What's
I
that?
said you've been a little busy with the North Ave project, everything else you have going on, so.
Yeah, there's a
yeah.
few things, so that, I'd like to see if we could get authorization, because of the way the meetings fall and how soon we're looking, for an additional person, basically for $10 an hour as early as June 1st and no later than September 11th. And that person's to be determined.
Right.
I've got one application I was pretty excited to see come through, but I haven't been able to get a hold of him yet, so.
Is that Evan?
No, it's not Evan, I wish. You could walk to work then. He's already 12, he should have a couple years under his belt now. So-
Yeah, I have no problem with that whatsoever. All right, I'll entertain a motion in a second to allow to hire Brandon at $11 an hour and an employee to be named at a later time, selected by DPW Superintendent Jake Swingley at a rate of $10 an hour. Time period is notated by Jake.
I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Polito?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Were you, do you have any success contacting Megan?
No, not
Okay.
yet. One of the things, I'm looking at part of our paving projects this year is there's, all grants, not all of them, but very often they have their own specific rules as far as how we can utilize some, funding. And, I wanna make sure that, in-kind services, that if there's funding available, I wanna maximize that.
Right.
So I think by tomorrow, I've gotta get with Chris, and by tomorrow we should have really good handle on prices. I'm waiting for a couple prices, but one more should get me close enough to where I'll know the wording that I need, because as you know, it came in for something that was completed, so.
Right, absolutely. I just, wait till the next meeting, you can give the good news to everybody.
All right.
What was that for?
It's a grant that was, it didn't come out of committee last year from Senator Nozzolio's office, so they encumbered the amount to this year. But what we had to do was to know what the original project was going to be. And the project was already on the schedule as was required. We completed the project. So it was, the paperwork came through, X amount of dollars, but the project name was the project that was previously completed. So, made a phone call and asked, can we change projects? No problem. We just need to get the numbers, notate the project, send the paperwork in, and we should be fine. But it's in flux right now, but it's not going to be a problem. And Jake has selected, is in the process of selecting what project that monies will be directed to, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna try to put it towards a couple, so we have that.
Yeah,
that
and that's
flexibility.
why you can't really determine yet, because he's waiting for quotes.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest portion of the project very often is the material.
Right.
They were putting out, if it's a paving project, the asphalt. And it's always, to me, it's the easiest one. It comes on one bill, one check, one voucher. So when you go to do the submittals, if I can say I'm going for this road and this road together, or the 2015 paving to include these certain streets, and then I can reach that threshold with one bill or two bills. It's easier for them to review, easier for us to turn in. I figure if we make it easier for them, maybe they'd like to deal with us some more and get some more money for the
There you
village, so. Try to make it go as smooth as possible,
Smooth is good.
yes.
Anything else?
No, I
All right,
think that
thank you.
is it.
All right, so we'll open up the phone lines. If anyone would like to call in, the number to call is 265-3772. Please give us your name and address when you call in, if you should decide to. We'd appreciate it. We do have, I just have one announcement I do. I don't know if Darrell or anyone else has any, but there is Monday, June 1st from 4 to 8 p.m. There is Cruising for Cancer. It's at the Baytown Plaza in Penfield, the old Blockbuster parking lot. There we'll have music by Sound Express. There'll be food trucks on site. Proceeds will benefit the Relay for Life American Cancer Society, and they will also be having a kids coloring contest. So, Jerry, feel free to sign up.
Oh, so you're the only one that laughed.
I know, but it was a jovial laugh. So this is, I don't know if you can. Thank you, Karen. Anybody else have any announcements? Jake?
I just want to congratulate Selfish, my kids, the baseball team, the San Flipo 12U Rattlers. They played in the tournament this weekend and came in first, right at Camp Park, so it was really nice.
Nice.
We had 3 days of fun in the sun, but they had a good time at the end of it and ended up winning it, so it was kind of neat.
Good for it. Good for him.
For them.
Congratulations.
Their mother must have worked well with them.
Very
She's
skilled.
quite the athlete, your wife.
Wasn't good for me, I'll tell you that.
It came out in the paper today, and I would like to announce that the Webster Village Band has announced their summer schedule. It begins on Thursday, June 18th, and will continue until, I believe, August 27th. The 60-plus member band is beginning its 48th year of entertaining the Webster community, and they will be putting on their concerts at 7 p.m. And the band shell at Phillips Road. Future dates are July 2nd, July 9th, the 30th, and then August 6th, 20th, and 27th. So grab a blanket or chair and come out on a Thursday night and enjoy the music.
When's the movie night starting?
Find out.
Huh?
Late June.
Is it late June?
Yeah. There's also, just 2 weeks ago, I was invited to the season opener for the racing. We have 2 employees that have been racing cars for a number of years, actually decades. It's the Bradshaw brothers, and it's actually an entire family that's involved in this. And they had the season opener at the racetrack down in Perry 2 weeks ago, and my son and I went down and got there early, had a chance to go down into the pits and meet the entire family, and it was pretty neat. The 3 brothers race together, and actually Matt's fiance races also. The father got involved probably 30 years ago when he was working at a body shop, and obviously brought the kids up. Matt's been running go-karts. I think Matt told me when he was 6 years old, started racing go-karts, and it's a 1/3 mile track, and needless to say, the cars are loud, and I was astounded at how fast they go around that track, and they're literally like a foot apart. And my son and I were, it was a great evening. We got there around 5, left around probably 11:30. And there were 3 different categories of cars that raced, and the 3 brothers raced in the same category. And 17 cars started that race that night, and only 7 finished. There were so many accidents. You got 17 cars on a 1/3 mile track doing 85 to 90 miles an hour coming out of turn, I think 3 or 4. It's amazing. But, I would encourage those that, are interested in that to make the trek down to Perry. It's a great family outing. They have all sorts of food to eat there. And, at one point there was a long break between the accidents, and my son wanted to go get a pop, and 15 minutes later, I don't know where he is. I leave the grandstands, and I walk out and back, and it's dark. I see a bunch of kids together, and I'm like, what's going on over here? Sure enough, there's about 10 kids and 1 football, and the game was on. So it's a great family outing, and I would encourage everybody, if you have an opportunity, to cheer on the Bradshaw boys, because I was extremely impressed with the operation, and I didn't realize everything that's involved. But you sit and you talk to Matt and Mike, and their brother's nickname is Bro, and their father, and it's very enlightening, the dedication that they put into that sport, and they absolutely love it. I took a picture of Mike next to his car, and I think that's the first time I've seen Mike smile like that ever. So, yeah, it's a great family, the Bradshaws. It was very nice to spend the evening with them. So, if there's nothing else, anybody else have anything this evening? All right, so I'll entertain a motion in a second to enter into executive session regarding a legal matter of former employee Kathy Frada and to discuss a potential disciplinary action regarding a particular employee.
Can you also add the current litigation involving former employee Leonard Lansdale?
Yes, and current litigation regarding former employee Leonard Lansdale.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Byers?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.